Okay, so let's see how a turn goes or a round goes. First of all, you got to designate who's the governor, which is going to be player number one, and you can do it anyway: rock, paper, scissors, roll a dice. And since the governor has an advantage, the other players they have a little head start. They get a plantation of their own, so they start out with one plantation. And see, so you have corn here. Player three had corn. The other one had indigo. The governor doesn't have any, and the reason why is because there is an advantage of being the governor. Because what you can do, the governor has a choice of all the roles. Because once a role is taken, you can't pick it. And since you're the first player, you have the most options. So, as the governor, you start out, you try to choose a role, and let's say for the first turn, you choose settle. And what settler does, it gives you can get a plantation. However, the person who picks a settler gets the privilege, and the privilege is that they can get a quarry instead. So, let's say the governor gets the settler role, and also you can look at your little cheat sheet in case you forgot what it does, and like it says, the privilege of the person who chose the role, they can get the quarry instead, and that is probably the only way you can get a quarry. Of course, there's a building that does it, but I'm not going to get into that. So let's say for the first turn, the first player gets the quarry. So they go ahead and they choose the quarry, and they'll put it on their island space. And yep, there it is. And you'll be able to put it on your island space. There we go. And that's his turn. Now the next player will be able to settle. However, they don't get the privilege. They'll only be able to get the regular plantations. So they have a choice between the tobacco, the indigo, and the sugar. And let's say they choose tobacco. Okay, so they take the tobacco and they put it on their island. So player 3 and player 4, you go around the table and they do the same thing. Okay, so now that player 1 has chosen his role, the next person gets to choose a role. And okay, normally you don't pass the governor spot, but I'm just gonna pass the governor card just to indicate which player's turn it is. But you don't really pass the governor card until everyone has taken a turn. But anyways, so let's say player 2 gets to choose a role. Now, as you can see, the settler role's already been taken, so they have to pick from the available ones. And remember, what being able to choose it gives you a privilege. So let's say player 2 chooses builder, and what builder does, you get to build a building, and the privilege of the person to choose it, they get to buy the building at 1 less doubloon. Okay, so you take the building roll and you go ahead and shop for a building. And if you see the numbers on the building, the numbers in the big circle, that represents the costs. Now, since the chooser gets to buy something at 1 less, this small indigo plant, which normally costs 1, will cost 0 for the person who chose the role. So they take that and they put it in their board. So the next person goes ahead and gets a building of their choice. But this time they don't get the privilege. They have to pay full price. So you look around the board, and it looks like player 2 will grab another indigo plant. But he doesn't get it for free. She has to get it for the total full cost, which is 1. And that is what the building roll does. So the next person gets to build, and then the next person gets to build. So now it's player 3's turn. And so player 3, the first thing you do is to choose a role. And so the roles, you're limited to, I think, 5 roles. And in this case, they'll pick the mayor. And the mayor, what it does, you get a colonist. And if you're the one that picked it, you get an extra colonist. So you grab a colonist from the boat. And actually, the first player, they get to grab it from the supply too. So the first player will be able to get 1 from the supply and 1 from the boat. So they be able to get 2 colonists. And we'll take the colonists and they put it on either the building or the plantation. In this case, they'll put it in the indigo plant. Okay, so then the next person, player 2, will grab a colonist and they will place it somewhere on their board. And they'll place it on the sugar. Actually, I shouldn't put it on the sugar. Anyways, the next person goes ahead and takes the colonist and they put it on one of their spaces, and they'll put on the quarry. And then the last person takes the last colonist and they put it on their building. All right. So everyone grab the colonists. So that's pretty much the turn. So finally you go to player 4. So player 4 goes ahead and picks a roll. Now I made a mistake. I shouldn't have put the colonists on the shirt. Let me put it on the coin just to show how the production works. Okay. So let's say I put it on the corn. And so this person goes ahead and gets the craftsman. And what the craftsman does, it lets you produce. So, and if you're the one that gets the privilege by choosing it, you get to produce one extra. So here I have a colonist on the corn. That's why I moved it. So this person will be able to produce a corn, one corn. So what you do, and corn is a special one. You don't need a building to produce corn. You just need to put someone on a plantation. So you get a corn, which are represented by the yellow token, and you put it on your board. The next person, they won't be able to produce anything because quarry's not a producing plantation. And right here, they have the plantation, they have the building, but they don't have a worker on the plantation. You got to have a worker on the building and the plantation, so that won't be able to produce. Here, they have a they have a colonist on the building and the plantation. So yes, they are able to produce. In this case, it's indigo, which is indicated by a blue wooden piece. And that's how production goes. Oh, I forgot. The person with the privilege, they get one more good from the supply. That is the privilege. So they'll be able to produce one more. In this case, they can only produce corn. So they'll go ahead and get another corn. So, and that is the craftsman stage, and we have completed one round. Okay, so now that one round is completed, before we start the next round, we have to look at the ones that have not, the roles that have not been chosen, and we take a doubloon and we place it on each of those roles that have not been chosen in the previous round. Then we take the ones that we did use and we put them back into the pile. So the next person, they'll be able to choose one of the roles, all 7 of them, and if they get the ones with the tokens on them, with the money on them, they get to keep the money. So that kind of entices you to choose a different role. And then the governor tag, it goes clockwise to the next person, and the next person will now be the governor and be able to pick first. And like I said, it's a big advantage to be the governor. And that's pretty much the game. Okay, you just keep on going, doing the same things. And oh yeah, let me go over the roles that we haven't chosen. This is the trader role, and what you do, you can take your good and put it into trader house, and you get doubloons for it. And the privilege for the person who chooses it gets an extra doubloon. The captain role lets you ship your goods for victory points, and the privilege of the person who chooses it, they get an extra victory point. Then the last role is the prospector, and it's just straight money. So you get 1 doubloon from the bank, as well as whatever's doubloons are on that card. And that is it. That's Puerto Rico. You keep going and going until you get an end game trigger, and whoever has the most points wins the game. So that was Puerto Rico, a brief summary of Puerto Rico, and I really didn't get into all the details. I mean, like the buildings, those are the really cool aspects of this game. The buildings give you a little advantage and let you break some of the rules, and also there's some limitations when you're shipping and trading, and that kind of adds another layer of thinking, and it sort of gives you an opportunity to screw other people. So yeah, I guess there's a little bit of an interaction in this game, but a nice deep strategy game. Seems daunting at first, but it really isn't. Once you get a first couple of games under your belt, it flows pretty well. And yeah, it's pretty solid. I don't think it's too complex. I don't think it's too easy. It's a good balance in between. Okay, people call this a modern classic, and I can see why. It's the first
popular European game that's hit America. And it's kind of weird. If you told me about this game about, let's say, 10 years ago, say, hey, do you want to? Here's a cool game. It's called Puerto Rico, and you get to grow goods like sugar, coffee, tobacco, and you get to ship them out. I would have said, really? I mean, I don't know. If it wasn't about fantasy or war, I probably wouldn't be interested. Well, nowadays, there's a lot of Euro games out there. A lot of games this style, like Le Havre and everything, where you're just simply trading stuff or growing items and stuff like that. And it seems kind of like a very bad theme, but it's actually pretty good. Lots of strategy, and this is one of the originals. Yeah, and the good thing about these Euro games, particularly this one, there are several ways to achieve victory. You can, you can concentrate on, just concentrate on trying to get tobacco. You can just concentrate on like buying certain buildings to be more efficient. But there are several ways to get your ultimate goal, which is to get victory points by trading, or like I said, getting buildings. You can get victory points through that too. But this is a very good game. I mean, real strategic, very thinky. Now, I guess one of the criticisms about this is that there's very little luck, and like I said, the only randomness in this game is the plantations. When you flip over the plantations, they could vary. Other than that, there's not much randomness in this. Because of that, people who played this game like 50 to 100 times, there comes a point, and I haven't had any experience with this, but there comes a point where you have to play a certain way or else you'll upset the table. Like for instance, like when someone plays mayor, then your next move should be this. There's a certain way to play. Okay, well, first of all, that should be a non-issue. I don't believe that you should play a certain way just because, just because you have some snotty people who play this game so much, and you have to play a certain way, you got to mess it up. Hey, if you're a good player and you have a newbie on your team on the table and they do the quote wrong move, if you're good enough, you should be able to adjust to that. Okay, so to me, that's a non-issue. You shouldn't play with something. But you know what? There are. If you play in serious tournaments, I believe they get all upset when you play the wrong move. Okay, now that shouldn't be the case. All right. But if you take that factor out of the way, if you get that out of the way, this is a fun game. Okay, and it's a little bit on the complex side, but if you want to introduce someone to more serious games, and they have the willingness and the time to learn real complex, real elaborate board games, this would be a good one, because it's kind of I believe this is kind of like the lighter side of the Euro games. I don't know. I think it's about average, but yes, real strategic, real variety. And I played other Euro games, and a lot of people are saying, well, Puerto Rico, it's long in the tooth right now. I still like this one. I really still like this. I played other Euro games. This just flows better. It's simple. It has a good feel to it. It's not too long, maybe about an hour, a couple hours. And it goes. Oh, and another thing about this game, even if it's not your turn, because when someone picks the roll, I mean, they get the privilege, but everyone gets to do it. So you're constantly doing something every turn. You don't have to sit and wait too much. Okay, you want to sit and wait to do something that you want to do, but other than that, you're constantly playing, and that's a major plus of this game as well. So Puerto Rico, on a scale of 1 through 10, I will give Puerto Rico an 8. Yes, real solid Euro type game, and if you're, like I said, if you're willing to, or if you're not into games, or someone who's not into games that much, but they are willing to, open up a new world of strategic Euro style board games, this is the go-to game. So that's it. Until next time, I'm Nick. I'll see you later.